Lesson 2-4. In this lesson, we're going to add and subtract decimals. So in order to do this, of course, we need to know how to add and subtract whole numbers, but we also need to use the same method that we use when we compare decimals. In other words, we've got to stack them, which means lining up the decimals by their place value. Here's how the teacher's note on this page phrases that. It says, to add 2 86/100ths plus 59/100ths, write the problem in vertical form, up and down. Be sure like decimal places are aligned. In other words, stack them, line them up by place value. Then start at the right, add place by place, regrouping when needed. Okay, so the original problem, 2 86/100ths plus 59/100ths. First, write the problem in vertical form. They've done that here. The ones place, you have the 2 and the 0. The tens place, you have the 8 and the 5. The hundreds place, you've got the 6 and the 9. And now, what I do is I actually insert the decimal point right where it lies, and then I add each place value as if it was whole number addition, as if this was 286 plus 59. 6 and 9 make 15. The 5 comes down, the 1 gets carried. 1 and 8 is 9. 9 and 5 is 14. The 4 comes down, the 1 gets carried. And then 1 and 2 make 3. I get an answer of 3 and 45/100ths. Number 1, 5 and 94/100ths plus 2 and 9/100ths. You can see how that has been stacked for us. Everything is aligned, place values going together, and then we just add them as if it's whole number addition. But remember to place that decimal point right where it lies before you start your adding. Otherwise, it's tempting to forget it sometimes at the end. So I make that my first move. In other words, if I'm looking at this problem and I'm stacking it, thinking about the place values in my mind, the very first thing I do is I insert that decimal point. Then I get to work. 4 and 9 is 13. 3 comes down, the 1 gets carried. 1 and 9 is 10. The 0 comes down, 1 gets carried. 1 and 5 is 6. 6 and 2 is 8. I get a final answer of 8 and 3/100ths. Next up, 3 and 9/10ths plus 72/100ths. Let's stack them. In this case, I'm going to add a 0. And I'm going to insert the decimal point of my answer right where it lies. And now I can add them. 0 and 2 is 2. 9 and 7 is 16. The 6 comes down, 1 gets carried. 1 and 3 is 4. Get a final answer of 4 and 62/100ths. 2 and 63/100ths plus 1 and 95/100ths. Let's stack them. Three and 5 is 8. 6 and 9 is 15. 1 and 2 is 3, and 1 is 4. 4 and 58/100ths. Now the next set of problems are subtraction, but the steps are exactly the same. We're going to stack. In this practice problem, 4 and 2/10ths minus 1 and 58/100ths. When we first wrote it vertically, notice that a 0 was added here. And then you're just going down the line. Let's put that decimal point here. The 0 needs to borrow from the 2. 2 becomes a 1. The 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Now over here, the 1 needs to borrow from the next place value over. So this 4 becomes a 3. This 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. And then finally, the 3 minus 1 is 2 to get an answer for 2 and 62/100ths. Down here, number 4, 5 and 94 hundredths minus 2 and 9 hundredths. No extra zeros are needed, but remember, I'm going to insert that decimal point right where it lies, right at the beginning. 4 minus 9, well, the 4 needs to borrow. 9 becomes an 8. 4 becomes 14. 14 minus 9 is 5. 8 minus 0, 8. 5 minus 2 is 3. Get 3 and 85 hundredths. 1 and 6 tenths minus 85 hundredths. Let's stack them. Line everything up by its place value. Notice that we can add a 0 here. Insert the decimal point right where it lies. Now subtract. 0 minus 5, the 0 needs to borrow. This becomes a 5. This becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 5 needs to borrow. 15 minus 8 is, and the zeros cancel. 75 hundredths. Finally, problem 6. 3 and 41 hundredths minus 2 and 7 tenths. Let's add the 0 here and insert the decimal point right where it lies. 1 minus 0 is 1. 4 minus 7, well, the 4 needs to borrow. 14 minus 7 is 7, and the 2's cancel. 0 and 71 hundredths.